Are you feeling the pressure at work or at home? Or maybe you're single and you're feeling the pressure to get married. Do you feel pressure from others to perform as a good boy or a good girl? We discuss these topics and more in this episode. Welcome to the Power of Investing in People podcast. I am your host, Shay Sparks. I am known to be an energetic catalyst and a fearless communicator. Over the past 25 years, I have been asked for my advice on relationships, leadership, and love. And this season is dedicated to spark your relationships, the way you lead, and the way you love. I am sharing my knowledge and experience to ignite season 8 on fire. And today we have a special guest, my good friend, John Robinson. So welcome to the show, John.
Thank you for having me.
Well, and I am so honored that you agreed to be on this because we've been friends for the past, several years. And and we've just really grown. Our friendship has grown, and our conversation, those juicy nuggets that we both get out of it. I was like, I wish there were so many times I was like, we need to be recording this. It was such a great conversation.
Yeah, well, I won't leave it up to you for the math, because when you said people come to you for 25 years, I'm like, they've been coming to you for all your life. So I didn't know you were 25.
Well, there you go.
So there you go. So then how long have we known each other? Yeah, who knows? Long time as well.
Yeah, very true. And yes, I am 25. There we go. Yes. Yes. And so you're absolutely right. I've had people my whole life ask me for advice, even as a little kid, which is so funny to ask for relationship advice from a little kid. But I will tell you a funny story. I just went back to my class reunion this year, and
What number was it? What number was it?
It was more than 25. So it was more than the 25. But what's so funny is that they all said to me, I should have taken your advice. And I was like, wow, think about that. Like, you came to me asking for advice, and then I was saying I should have taken it. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. That just validates what it is that I'm doing. So we're here because one of the things that you and I have really talked about over the past several years is this pressure to be a good person, a good boy, kind of to live up to someone else's standard expectations. And I just want to share that this client of mine just recently had gone through a divorce. And we went back to when they first started dating, because now they had been married for so many years. I can't remember, but they had 2 children, or no, I'm sorry, they had 4 children, and they had all this time together. And she says, I don't think I ever loved you. Which, as you know, is soul crushing, right? And so I said, well, take me back to when you were dating. Like, what did that look like? And he said, well, she kept saying to me that she's older. She was 31 at the time, and he was 29. And she kept saying to me, I have to get married. I have to get married. I have to get married. And then her mom would say things like, when are you going to get married? When are you going to settle down? And I'm like, so what choice did you make? And he was like, I don't know. I don't even know if I made a choice. So thinking about our conversations, what pressure have you felt to get married and to be in relationships, or to be the next thing?
All right, I'm gonna breathe into this one because this is a big topic. And I love the idea of pointing at an event like marriage, or pointing at fatherhood, motherhood. But I'd like to reel back, because today I went on a hike in Torrey Pines. I'm in San Diego for a bit of time with one of my friends. And what came through me over the last 24 to 48 hours was this place of, I'm okay if she's okay. So that gets us really big, because I'm okay if she's okay can start from the womb. And I thought about my mother. I love my mother, no doubt. Challenging as hell, but I love her. When I was born to a single mother. So there is something that I believe that I'm learning after 52 years, and I'm proud to say 52, that there is this innate thing about, is she okay?
Mm.
And there's this curiosity, there's this part of, man, if she's not okay, I'm not okay. This inquisitive, this curious thing, this intrigue thing, and it doesn't turn off. If you have a family culture that sheds light on that. So then I have two sisters.
Mm.
And as the oldest brother, there's that, is she okay? And then when you're raised mostly by women, you're, as a man, as a boy, as a child, you have that reticular activation ignited that is always scanning for, is she okay?
Mm.
And then if she's not okay, I'm not okay. So that good boy thing, that energy comes from this place of feeling over responsible for other people's happiness, including my mother. And this is brand new. We were supposed to record yesterday. I did not feel it. And I'm like, hey, let's record a day later. And you were gracious to do that. But here's why. I would never have been able 24 hours ago to share that this, we can point at marriage, we can point at having a kid, we can point at getting the dog, we can point at all those things that, let's say, a girlfriend or a wife would want, and then you have the guy saying, all right, I'll do it just so she's okay. So that was a pressure that I am just getting my arms around. I don't claim to have mastered it. I haven't danced with it yet, but I know I can point at it on the wall and be like, okay, I'm going to ask her to dance, but I'm not ready, because that's what's showing up. There's a lot of pressure when you are tying your okay to someone else's.
Mm. Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I'm so glad we didn't record yesterday, just so you could have this, not just awareness, it's like mind jarring, life changing epiphany, really, in my book. And we have talked over the years about this concept of being uber responsible. And I've been there. I was, even like we were talking just a little bit ago, people have asked me for their relationship advice. Even as a little kid, I was the peacemaker between my parents. I was the peacemaker between my brothers who didn't get along. And it's interesting that here we are midlife, and now we're going, wait, who was I as a kid, and how our childhood experience have shaped our adult decisions. So this whole thing about, is she okay, is really about pleasing and people pleasing another person.
So
So
I knew you were going to go there, and I can feel my resistance to it, because I've taken so many assessments around trauma and how I handle trauma, and I score so low in the people pleaser area. And I always wonder why, but I mean, I'm the one scoring myself. So I don't attach to the people pleaser part of it. I attach to how it makes me feel to be a rescuer versus a hero. And that's another thing. As boys, and I'll speak only from my experience, there's that, you're a man, rub some dirt on it, make sure your sisters are okay, make sure your mother's okay, and you're the man of the house while I go to work at 8 years old. Like, okay, I don't even know what that means. And so there's this part that are we people pleasing, or are we following instructions so that we feel that we're loved, that we feel that we're lovable, that we feel like we're in compliance? Because my dad loved my dad, and to rewind, I have a stepfather who's not a stepfather. So I've been raised a majority of my life with my dad. And he did not have his parents in his life for long, and he was raised by his siblings. But he came to the table and did the best he could. Best he could. So I'm in the space of he's an overachiever. However, during that time, what he didn't know was that he was putting that pressure on me as a kid. So would I tie that to people pleasing? No. I don't know if it's wanting your dad to love you, if that means people pleasing. Okay, then maybe I can feel that. Did I not want to upset my father? For sure. Did I not want to upset my mother? For sure. So that's why I think that's that masculine, feminine energy thing that's inside is like, well, I'm not a people pleaser, but do I want my parents to accept me and love me? Yes, hands down.
Well, and then that's really, you just described what people pleasing is. That's the definition that I know what it is that it's not about making, it's twofold, actually. It is about having someone say to you, good boy, good girl. And it is that recognition that we then get validated that, oh, I am lovable. I am okay. I am a human being. I'm a good person because I did X, Y, and Z. So what you explained was exactly spot on. That is what people pleasing is. And it's also wanting that validation from the other.
Yeah, when you say that, I'm going to reflect back the essence of self-esteem. And when I think of self-esteem, it is how highly I regard myself. When I tie the currency of good boy, John's great, mama's baby boy, all of that stuff, even my aunt Diana, my handsome nephew, like all of that praise, I feel like it's exchanged somewhere in the world so that it reflects back as I hold myself in high regard because I'm receiving this currency. I'm receiving these compliments. I'm receiving this love. So it's messy. It's really messy because even as I say that, there's a part of me feeling shame of like, oh man, I'm the guy that likes to hear that his auntie says I'm the best nephew ever. I do to this day. So there's a part of you want to be highly regarded. At least I do. I'm not going to point at anybody else. I like to be highly regarded for me being me. And that's something I struggle with a lot of how much work do I have to do so that I can get that in return, or can I just show up? Which you and I have talked a lot about. What would it take just to show up as is?
Yes. Which goes back to me thinking about when you're in those formative years of right after college or college age, people are, coupling up. They're meeting those people 23, 24, and they're like, oh my gosh, we're going to get married. And for whatever reason, society, and I think it goes back to even before 20s in churches, right? They would get married at, 15, 16, 18 years old. They were like, oh, you're an old, whatever, an old maid or an old bachelor that'll never get married if you're, 20. And so as we've evolved, it's, I think the years have gotten later, but there's a societal pressure that we're feeling that I think as an additional layer to what we also feeling, not only in our family dynamic, but also what we're feeling inside.
Okay.
Right.
I feel where you're coming from there. And I just heard a Jordan Peterson soundbite on this not an hour ago. And I'd never looked at it this way. And it starts from this idea. Do you believe that you go conservative or liberal? So when you think about you, do you feel that you're more conservative or more liberal?
It depends on the topic.
Perfect. That's a great answer. That's a great answer. When it comes to marriage, do you feel that you're conservative or liberal?
It depends on the day.
Okay. I love that. I love that. And that's being honest because for me, I believe it's a very conservative viewpoint to get married at 20 years old, have babies by 25, go to church every Sunday, and it's what's been laid out for lots and lots of years. So for me, I'm more liberal when it comes to how I live my life. I'm not a 9 to 5. I've never been married. I don't have kids. There was a part, I think, when I danced with this, that I was trying to act out, trying to not be just like everybody else and live this different path. But no matter what, though, all along the way, late 20s, early 30s, as a guy, it might be a little different as a woman on the conversations that are had when you're a single man at 30, at 40, at 50, than it would be for a woman possibly. And yeah, that pressure comes up, I think, from the surroundings too, the environment, the culture you come from. Because I'll tell you this, my parents, both of them, never forced that thought of getting married. Like my dad never did, to this day. My mother, a little bit between 28 and 33, because that was that idea of, I want to be a grandmother. Now she has 5 grandchildren, so none. So my sisters have done that great, so I don't have to. But that was only it too. So some people have families, and some people have social circles that put all that heaviness on, all that light on it, to where one could feel bad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're spot on. I think it depends. Your family unit is definitely who you're surrounding yourself with, and who what's the word I'm looking for? Influences, who
Right.
influences our thought processes, right? And you're absolutely right. I grew up in a very conservative area of the country, and my family was conservative in that way. And that's what put on the pressure to me. Now, have I been married? No. And do I have children? No. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because we are completely, one, not the norm at this stage.
We're weirdos.
Yeah, we're weirdos.
In the spirit, and I say that,
and I'm okay with that.
Right, but I say that lovingly in the spirit of Seth Godin's work. That's how we met.
Right.
I'm a Weirdo, I think
Yes.
is the name of the book that he wrote, and I don't see it right behind me. But there is that part of just owning that weirdo and being like, hey, that's special. That's special. I have a question for you, because as you feel into the idea of marriage, in the spirit of attachment theory, the idea that it could be anxious avoidant, ambivalent, and secure. Tell me about your journey, if there has been a journey with the idea of marriage. Was there, and I'll stop there. I think you got the gist of what I'm saying.
Well, first of all, let me just kind of reiterate what you had just said about your timeline. So for me, it was in high school, people were talking about marriage and planning their weddings. Women, okay? My friends. Yeah, in high school. I know it's so foreign.
I don't know. Guys don't do this.
I know. It's so foreign.
Like, I'm gonna have 9 kids.
Exactly. Like, no. I know. So totally different worlds, right? And they're talking about their marriage. They got the wet bridal magazines, and this is on high school, right? And I literally was in the corner like, yeah, that's probably not gonna be me. And they're like, what? And I was like, I don't know if I want children, or I'm going to have a couple of children and the husband will take care of it, because I'm going to go travel and live and work and do all the things. So I always kind of felt like that was my so completely viewpoint different than everyone else's. And then as I got into my 20s and I was in a relationship for a long time, that was everyone's question. Well, when are you gonna get married? When are you gonna get married? When are you gonna get married? And it's like, and I didn't honestly have the vulnerability, the words, the capability, the guts to say he's abusive and I need to get out of this. So let's talk about that. And so it wasn't until I got out of that and really tried and peeled away the layers of the onion that I am, that we all are, and healed, that I realized, like, man, I'm so glad I did not marry him. I'm so glad in my 20s I didn't get married. I wasn't mature enough to be married. And truthfully, now that I'm in 40s, I don't even think I was mature enough in my 30s to be married, because of the attachment issues, because of how insecure my attachments were to so many things, not just people, but goals that weren't right for me. It goes deeper than just relationships. I mean, it goes into goals and into things and all that. So for me now, looking at the big picture and my years gone by, and I was just talking to our mutual friend the other day, for me, I kind of still bounce around different attachment styles. I'm
Mhm.
mostly in the secure, but there are a few times that I'm like, man, I am really stuck in this and insecure, and sometimes even avoidant,
Yeah.
insecure and avoidant attachment style.
I like that. And when people, if anyone dives into the attachment theory work, it is not about a finite understanding. It's infinite. It bounces around like a pinball machine. Cause I know for me, I've had all of the
Hmm.
feelings, especially ambivalent.
Yes,
Because the
yes.
ambivalent one is mixed feelings. And that's what ambivalence is to me. It's mixed feelings. It's kind of like on Facebook when they say ask about relationship and the thing is complicated.
Complicated, yeah.
Right, complicated. So I've experienced all of those, and I think what's happened to me, the closer that I've felt to security with the topic was when I was more, I would say, in peace with myself.
Hmm.
And I think when I'm not at peace with myself, then that creates that chaos, which
Hmm.
that chaos spills into uncertainty and doubt. And then if you're trying to people please, then a decision's made that doesn't feel right. Because I know for me, I was engaged when I was 23, 24 to my high school sweetheart.
Mm,
We talk about the topic of pressure. High school sweetheart, I was with her for 6 years.
yeah.
Everybody kept saying every Christmas, when are you gonna get
Yep.
married? And so there was that part of it. And then there is something about growing together. And I could get that when there are people that are 16 and
Hmm.
whatever part of the country, and then they get married at 19 or 22, 23. It's because they were together since they met each other third grade type stuff. I get that because I know for me, that's what it was with my first girlfriend, literally first girlfriend. There was
Hmm.
that we grew together through undergrad. And then when I graduated, I felt more pressure to just be me
Yes.
than to be in a relationship, a marriage when I don't even know who I am, when I don't even know why I exist.
Mm,
That is a very dangerous place. And that's not any age. That's not any specific age. It's can be at any age. And when I say that, I've dated several women post divorce, and that identity
hmm.
transition,
Yes.
it's no different than an identity transition from 18 years old into I'm leaving my mama's house and I'm going to college, and you don't know who you are then. So
Yes.
this whole identity thing, it moves between decades. So there is a part of understanding what the pressure is on you and your attachment to what's said topic, have kids, get married, whatever it is. So yeah, I just want people to, I say all that so that people are kind on themselves, because I know how hard I am on
Mm.
myself and how I think about things. And there's got to be some tenderness, some space created, so it can be like, yeah, I just didn't know who the hell I was at 30, at 40, at 50.
Well, and again, this is obviously our audience can tell this is why we're friends, because we have these amazing conversations. And I love what you just said is that show yourself kindness. And I just think about how often we are so quick to judge ourselves and how quick we are to like beat ourselves up and have this inner negative dialogue of, oh my God, I can't believe I'm not blank. And whatever that blank is, or I can't believe I am blank. And I just want to reiterate that, like, if we become gentle
Mhm.
and ask that question, who am I? Because as of today, that date that we are recording, this is the first time we are this days old, right? So every single day is a an opportunity to ask that question.
That's a
Who am
rebirth.
I?
I think
Who am I
rebirth.
today?
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
And then to be gentle in the process of creating it, be gentle in the process of thinking about it. Maybe
Mhm.
it's in the process of healing from who we were yesterday.
I'm going to share something that's coming through me, and I don't know if we're trying to talk about tips and things and how techniques on how we do ourselves. One that has been a game changer for me is this emotional well-being check that I do. I've been asking myself lately through a journal. The first question is, what am I a little nervous about? What am I a little afraid of? What am I a little ashamed of? What am I a little sad about? And me just getting closer with, and I use the word, I code the word little so that it creates space, so there's not this sense of emasculation for me as a man. I'm
Mm,
sad. What? Yeah, I'm this. So that has been a part that has been very helpful for me, because when you said, who am I? I'm the observer. I'm the
mm,
observer of my emotions. I'm the observer of my thoughts that may not be beliefs.
yes.
Like my thoughts are not my beliefs. I have so many of them, and there's so much about things. You just have to, some of them you just have to let slide and let go. But that whole gentle part is like, how do I become more gentle with myself? Start caring about my emotional well-being.
Mm, I love that. And I'm going to go a step further and say, when you, did you say that I am blank?
Well, I thought I heard you say something about I am, and I don't use that
Mm,
language
I
of
was just going to say, let's not use that
yeah,
language.
I don't use that language. So if I ever get into that finite I am, then I go to I am a divine observer of my existence. Not I'm sad, I'm this, I'm that. That's why even in the I'm a little nervous, or I'm a little afraid, or I'm a little, that little part
Hmm.
kind of creates safe space. So then that I can integrate some of the stuff I'm a little nervous about. Like even right now, if I did a quick check-in, shaking myself up, and I say, what am I a little nervous about? I got 10 days in Chicago coming up, and I heard it was 30 degrees. And I'm like, I'm leaving San Diego. Like, I'm a little nervous about being there for that many days. I might want to shorten that trip. So it's being playful with yourself. Like
Hmm.
me even saying a little nervous, like, but I get to say it out loud, and I get to play with it a little bit. So yeah, but that I am is dangerous.
Yeah. And so what I try to do when I journal, because, this whole series is really creating around sharing tips and tools and
Yeah.
journaling, right?
Why is journaling
To
important to you?
why is journaling important to me? It helps
Yeah.
me process.
Okay.
It helps me process. It helps me get out whatever it is that I'm thinking or feeling. I'm kind of a venting machine or brain dump, I like to call it.
Mhm.
So it's healing. There's just so many reasons. Why do you like journaling?
Well, and I'll answer in a second. The reason why I brought that up, because in my body of work, I work with mostly male leaders, and the idea of journaling is so far from most guys. And it's like, all right, is it a scrapbook? You put pixie dust on it, like it feels like too magical. And
Hmm.
that's why I wanted for you to record the sound bite on what it is to you, and then I'll reflect back. Why does journaling exist to me? Journaling is my safe space
Yes.
to be able to express. And
Mm.
I don't mean, I don't, it doesn't have to be words. It could be, I have sketches in there. I have XY graphs. I have, like, when journaling to me is, it creates the space from up here and up here to the page.
Yes.
And then I can become that divine observer. And it is a timestamp for me. I can go
Mm.
grab some of my journals, and I might have some tears of being like, I'm the same dude as I was 5 years ago. Or I could be like,
Hmm.
man, I am not in that space. I'm in a state of better. And I
Hmm.
like that too. But if I had to stop joking around, I would say that I am not at all in a worse position at any point. If I looked at any of these journals, like today is the highest of the peaks, I guess I call it.
Well, I know you well enough to know the answer to this, but I'll ask you anyway. Are you a really good thinker?
Uh, I'm feeling that out because a year ago, I'd be like, yes. And
Yes,
3 years ago,
exactly.
I'd be like, yes, yes. And I'd be all over it,
So,
like, oh, I'm a thinker, I'm a thinker. But what's happening is I'm becoming a feeler.
well,
And
and that's why I asked that question, is
yeah,
because as people, we have a tendency to be so in our thoughts that we're on autopilot and it's just going, 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 going. And sometimes it's the same thoughts over and over again, like a hamster wheel, just repeating itself. And what journaling does for me is allows me to get it out of my head so that I love what you said, observer, so that you
yeah,
can see it from a different perspective.
yeah.
And you're absolutely correct. Now you can take it on to go, how does this make me feel?
Mhm.
Rather than, okay, that's all that I've thought about it. But I worked with a dean of psychology from a local university on mindfulness. And she explained to me that in the brain, how it literally helps you when you're physically writing it down, not typing it out, but typing it out helps too, but physically writing it down with paper, a pen, and maybe even crayon if you're that creative, but a piece of paper and you're letting it go. There's something from your brain to your shoulder to your wrist to your hand out through the writing utensil onto the paper that releases it.
Mhm.
And for people who are leaders who are, what's the word, resistant
Mhm.
to journal, it's like you're doing yourself a disservice.
I'm going to give you two words. And as if for those that are watching, I have like a blank piece of paper and I have a pen and I'm just sketching down things as they come through me. And there were two words that showed up as you were just saying what you were saying: honor and official. So for me, when I am releasing, meaning journaling, there's a part of honoring anything that's going on, good or bad,
Mhm.
but making it official. So meaning that I can look at it, I can point at it, it is real to me now. Because there was another question that I came up with, which was like, how do you get out of your thoughts? That's what I was going to ask. How do you get out of your thoughts? Because journaling is one way,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of other ways. Like a part of getting out of your head is getting spiritual. So I have a
Mhm.
lot of spiritual practices that I never had 10 years ago,
Mhm.
and that those spiritual practices have put me in a better position to get out of my own way, to get out of my thoughts, to get out of that hamster wheel, which it's so easy to get into when you don't have kids, when
Mhm.
you don't have a spouse, when you have a lot of time to yourself, like you do and like I do, you have a lot of time to ruminate.
Mm.
And when I talk to people who have multiple kids or challenging marriages and all that, they don't even have enough time to play with these ideas because it's
Mhm.
like they're just go, 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 go. But then as children age and they go out the house, the empty nester thing, then it all comes back. So
Yeah.
this practice of releasing and honoring what is inside and what is coming through you so that it feels like it's official, great practice. It's great practice.
Well, to jump on that, what is your other practices? Because I know I have several too that I didn't do 10 years ago.
Yeah, I loved you said that because yesterday when I created the space to record today, I did 2.5 hours of meditation,
Mm.
and I use Peloton. So I'm going to use a tool. I use Peloton, and I did this 20-minute piece meditation, so topical, and I just kept looping it, and I kept
Mm.
looping it. So it was about 2.5 hours of just continuing to not sleep, but get into that unconscious state. And I felt like I was opening my heart back up. I
Mm.
felt like I was opening up. I didn't realize my heart was shutting down a little bit. And I'd done a craniosacral session too. So that's another thing that for those that know craniosacral, it's a kind of a combination of a body work, massage, and a little bit of therapy. And that's my experience. And so I had the combination, the 1-2 punch of that, plus the meditation, and those two things, those two events, activities, they put me in a more peaceful state.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. And then other stuff. Now I feel silly because I'm gonna just look around my dwelling right now. Candles, incense, gosh, what is it? Saging? Is that the
Yeah.
yeah. So no one knows this on the planet now, and this is the first time I'm saying it out loud. I literally sage myself in the morning, and with the idea that I am freeing whatever heavy spirits are inside me. Yeah, I sound crazy saying this. Whatever heavy spirits are inside me, whatever doubts inside me, whatever has me feeling heavy. And I mean, I do it like for 20 seconds or whatever. It
Mhm.
takes me longer to light the thing than it does for me to sage myself. And I swear every time I feel lighter, and then I have the hairs on my arm stand up every time. I have
Wow.
no idea why,
Wow.
but I do feel like one of my buddies uses this term called doubling down on self-care. He always
Mm.
says, like, when things are tough, double down on self-care. And that is me doubling down on self-care. And sometimes when I do it, I don't realize that there's anything heavy there. Sometimes it's like, and then all of a sudden I just feel lighter. So it's in times of desperation, and it's in times of fascination when I do that little saging thing. So yeah, that's the crazy thing I do in the morning.
I love it. It's not crazy. If it works for you, why is it crazy, right?
Right, right. But see,
Yes.
I like that you said that, because I think that's, as men, there's a part of us wanting to get permission. There's a part of us being a little nervous to share, because then people will think like, oh, what is he, a sorcerer now? And like all of that.
I have a client who actually makes candles, who's a man who is in the process of making smell good candles. So that's
Wow.
his sort of therapy. It's a business side gig right now, but he's like, it's so therapeutic
I
because,
want to make bath bombs. Did I ever
well,
tell you this?
no, I love that. Good. Do
Yes.
it.
Yes, I want to make bath bombs. I can't tell you what kind they are because I want to get it moving a little bit, but I have this idea of bath bombs and that are topical.
Well, so it goes into what I believe when I hear people talk about that in their adult stage of life, is that it goes back to arts and crafts in elementary school, right? We did that for a reason. It's to create that creative juices flowing outside of everything that we would normally be talking about or feeling about or thinking about. So for me, I love that you're doing, so, some people color, right? And it gets them out of that headspace. So that's what you're doing when you're doing the sage and lighting the candles, listening to music. I know you love
Oh,
music.
house music. Yeah,
Yeah,
house music is that's another one of mine that,
exactly.
and I say spirit. So if you was like, hey, which puts you in a good spirit, a good mood, a good place? Yeah, those two. Those
Yes.
two. So
Yeah. And especially, it could be a Christmas music, I know puts so many people in a good spirit. So even if you're listening to that in the summer,
yeah.
it'll work. Trust me. If it's one that puts you in a good spirit, it'll work. So for me, I had 10 years ago, I was just journaling and I would go to church and I would pray. That was kind of it. Now I'm like, I meditate. I go to walk on the beach
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah, beach is another one of mine. Yeah.
I now have access to the beach. I go outside. I just breathe in fresh air. I go for a little walk. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many different things that I do differently now than I did 10 years ago that was really just added to that doubling down on the self-care. I love that you use that term because that's literally what we need. We're
Mm-hmm.
so bombarded with so many different things that I'll wonder we feel pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And so how we can remove ourselves from that pressure, or a way we can get out of that thought process of pressure, is to go into the doubling down of self-care. I love that you said that.
Yeah, and I like that you said that, but there's one other thing to close the loop on the topic of pressure in marriage. And yes, those are all practices that one can get into to relieve or reduce the feeling of pressure. but there's still the shadow work or the deep work or the meaning that one makes, the story that one's telling themselves about marriage. And for me, I'm in this state of, as I feel into it, my time will come. That's
Yes.
it. My time will come. And I don't know if that's a traditional marriage, if that's lifelong companionship. I create another word for it. I have no idea what it could look like, but I do know this: it will be co-created. I
Yes.
refuse to just buy into an off-the-shelf version of what someone says marriage should be. And I think that's been my highest resistance, is that I don't feel like it's co-created. I feel like it's just, all right, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to say, and that's it. And no, not at all.
I love, so we're going to keep talking about this because I love that you mentioned the word co-creation. And I know I myself have not met anyone that I have been willing to co-create with.
Mhm.
And I say that because the conversations were not even on the same, we're not even on the same wavelength.
So were you incompatible? Let me stop you there, because incompatibility I wrote down earlier today, and I think there's a lot of energy around incompatibility and what that means. And I've talked to you about this before on, I was insulted that somebody told me I was incompatible. But
Yeah.
going to your story right now, as you said that you felt like you couldn't have that conversation. Was that because it was incompatible?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which
Okay.
goes back to pressure. How
Okay.
many times do people get into relationships or marriage or start
Yeah.
having children with people they're incompatible with because of the pressure?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like back to my client. He's like, we were married for, almost 20 years. And here she said, I never loved you all along. And I was like, well, where did that start? And when he was telling me, it was like, oh, there was all this pressure to get married. And I thought, what, he didn't even recognize his own process in it. He didn't recognize how he was a participant in his own life during that.
Yeah. When you say that, what I feel into is, I can't remember the name of the author, but it's this book around when things fall apart. And there is that part of me and part of a lot of men that was like, wait a second, you never loved me all along, and I thought you did. It was like, what did I miss? Like, how did I miss this the whole time? And then there's this dumbass inner critic that's like, dummy. Like, I think of Fred Sanford, dummy, talking about his son. Like, there's that sound of looking dumb, feeling dumb, and then having your heart ripped out at the same time. Yeah, that's not cool. Because I feel into this because I've had several relationships that I felt like Charlie Brown, and the rug was just taken from under me. Like, I forgot what her name is with the Lucy. with the football.
Yeah.
Like, and then you're like, oh my God, when are you going to let me kick the ball? And there's, oh, next time. And then you go and kick a fall down again. So there is a part of that pain of not realizing, how did I miss this? And I could feel his energy or her energy, I don't know, of how did I miss this?
And I think that goes back to in midlife. If some people are divorced, a lot of times that's the conversation, is how did I miss this? And I mean, even you and I have talked about people we've dated in the last couple of years. It's like, my God, what did I miss in the beginning? And it's like, maybe you weren't in the right mind space or the right mindset. And it goes back to that attachment. Maybe we saw it and we were already attached at some point and didn't know how to communicate our way out of it.
I'm going to share a new, I feel like I'm a spoken word right now. When you go up, there's like, this is called new shit. It's like, is it first time it's new shit? If we can swear. But I got some new shit, which is, I realized that I was addicted. And when I say addicted, I was taught, bred to care about, if she's okay, I'm okay. And biologically, I think there's an endorphin rush or dopamine rush or something that has this guy standing straight up like I'm a hero versus I'm a perpetual rescuer for somebody who is truly, and I'm going to say special needs, not from a clinical way, but needing special needs because of this, and this. So
Right.
if I pick target rich candidates like that who need that much attention, then that feels comfortable because that's what I was put on this earth to do, is be like, hey, if she's okay, I'm okay. So I'm able to now have a more secure relationship with it versus hitting my head against the wall and say, why'd I pick her? Or why'd I pick her again? Meaning not the same person, but the same persona. And it has everything to do with, how you create attachment to how you're showing up and how they're not showing up. Yeah, that's another one I missed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I won't say anything else on that.
Well, and I did too. I had an addiction to attention,
Yeah.
number one, but also I don't even know if it was an addiction, if it was just something I started to do, was to feel needed. I needed
Mhm.
to feel needed, right? So I guess that's part of the attention, that codependency loop, is that I needed to feel needed in a relationship to validate that I had a purpose, to validate that it goes back to that good girl again. It goes back to what we started off in the beginning. I had to have validation from others rather than being secure within myself, which
Yeah.
again goes back to doubling down on the self-care so that you can feel secure in who you are.
I want to mirror one thing as you said that, because there is a massive wave of coaches coming into the coaching space for the last 5 years. Everybody's a coach. There's 20 years old or 70. And what I know about coaching for my 15 plus years is that I wanted to be needed. And I didn't realize that every client I took on was, okay, I'm needed. And another one, even if some of those clients were not a fit, they were a
Yes.
mismatch. And I would still have this rush every day. And I'm only sharing this because this week and next week, I don't know if I told you this, this week and next week, I turned off all the I'm needed. Like, I mean, I'm not having any client sessions
Mm,
this week or next week for the first time in 15 years. I've never taken a 2 weeks break ever.
mm.
And I'm waking up. It's kind of like my old beloved Casey Marie, my boxer. It's like waking up every day for 13 years, knowing I got to feed her, take her out and get back and all that. And then having 2 other dogs within, 9 more years after that. So 20 years of having somebody need you, then all of a sudden don't need me anymore. I've been in 2 years without having a dog. And it's kind of that same feeling of, what if I'm not needed?
Mm.
Like, oh my gosh, I can feel myself feeling into that because this is only almost end of the first week. And I'm starting to feel that. It's like, wow, what if I'm not needed? And I don't know. I don't know how that feels yet.
Well, let me just tell you, it is a identity. It goes back to what we were talking about, identity process, because I just went through that. When I retired from
Oh,
my
that's right.
career,
Right.
I literally let go of, okay, I'm no longer going to be needed.
Nobody needed Shay.
And it was like, wait, my phone is not blowing up. I don't have all these text messages or phone calls or messages to answer to. And I was like, on one hand, it was great. On the other hand, I was like, well, this is really weird. I have not been this free in, close to 30 years. I'm not sure how to handle this right now. And so I gave myself permission to feel into it and feel whatever it is I needed to feel and to process it however I needed to feel. So I said, for the first month, I'm just going to sleep, eat, and cry. And if I need to.
That sounds like a
And
good book. That sounds like a good book. Sleeping
and
crap.
Yeah. And I thought, if I need to do that, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to comfort myself in those 3 ways. That's how I'm going to take care of myself, at least for the first month. And if I need it longer, I'm going to do it longer. But I'm going to allow myself that grace and that gentleness and that kindness to double down on my self-care in that way. So just know that you may need to really like do extra gentle stuff for yourself.
I think so. And I thought I was by doing that craniosacral the other day. And then, I mean, now that I think about it, it's a combination of all of that stuff that knocked me
Mhm.
on my butt yesterday. So I'm glad that I was even present enough, because in order to please you, I was going to push through it, and I was
Mhm.
just going to record. And then I was like, whoa, no, I can't, I can't, I have to take care of me. And there's a part of, what if I'm not needed, going back to the marriage thing.
Mm.
And now that I think about that, I've never connected the dots, that is, it's either that or you're gonna die alone,
Oh
that
yeah.
dumb stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it's a combination of both. When people of our age are thinking about, what is it to be unmarried.
Mm.
Forget marriage. What's it to be unmarried?
Unmarried. Yeah.
Unmarried. Like how does that land more than it's about marriage? It's about, what does it be to be unmarried? And I tell you, even me just thinking it out loud is like, wow, what if I'm not needed enough to be married?
Mm. So it shows up for me when you ask that, is kind of goes back to the what you were dealing with in the beginning of, I'm not okay if she's not okay.
Yeah.
Are you okay with being unmarried? And if that's the rest of your life, can I be okay with that?
Yeah.
And for some people, especially I am in a lot of Christian singles groups on Facebook. And for most of them, they're looking for the one rather than becoming the one. And I
Hmm.
have to even go a little bit further. And it's not about becoming the one for a partner. It's
Hmm.
about becoming the one for you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Damn, I like that.
Thank you.
I gotta take a sip on that one.
Yeah. Thank you. It's interesting to me to see how it these groups are, we may not be called, if you want to go a spiritual route, we not God might not have a partner for us. And how can we lean into being okay, being unmarried, not being single, it's being unmarried.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that little tweak of to unmarried. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like you and I could write a book called Unmarried. Like,
Yes.
like
Yes, we
because
could.
because no, seriously,
Yeah.
because there is, and I'm gonna just feel through this in the spirit of how do I exist at my highest level of love, creativity, inspiration, and compassion and empathy for the world, unmarried. Like, just imagine that. Just add the unmarried to the end of that. It's like, well, wait a second. You can do all that first
Hmm.
and then see what happens. I heard something the other day about, and I won't know who to give credit to this with, but there was this idea of like, what does surrender mean? And surrender, it was described as, it's God looking at a map, making an X with a circle, and placing you there. That's surrender. And it's like, all right, then what's my job if that was already done? To take the story from there. And I think that we get caught up so much in, how did I get here? Like,
Yes.
how did I get here? Let's go back to your mama, when your mama didn't come pick you up from basketball practice. Now you hate women. No, like, no, seriously, I'm trying to be halfway joking with that,
Yeah.
but I'm in this weird place around how to use trauma as an advantage
Yes.
versus a disadvantage. And I think in a lot of the circles online and offline, it can be easily used that trauma is a disadvantage, and it's something to highlight for each other, to highlight the victimhood versus the co-creation of what can happen from this. So what if we just thought God looked at the map, made an X with a circle, and placed you in it? Now what you gonna do? What kind of story are you gonna tell from here? Versus woe is me. So I'm recently trying to play with that right now.
Well, it goes to me, the answer, not that I have answers, but
Go
the answer that I
ahead.
do have, the answer that I do have is that things don't happen to us, they
Right.
happen for us,
Mhm.
right? And my own trauma, my own traumatic experience in the abusive relationship happened so that I could be who I am today as the coach, as the leader, as the woman, to do this podcast, to
Yeah.
share my wisdom, right? To share my experience so that others can reap the benefits as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like when you said share wisdom, but for those that are out there that are thinking about creating podcasts or think about creating circles, social circles to have conversations like this with, it's the collective wisdom that comes from colliding with each other. Like, because I know that I get more wisdom from moments that I'm hearing wisdom, and then it's a new idea. It's a new energy. It's a new motivation. It's a new encouragement. Nobody has it all figured out, but you don't have to do it alone, and you don't have to do it in silence. And that's why journaling and doing things like this, having conversations with loved ones or strangers to get in connection with who you are and why you exist, that's the difference maker.
Amen. Amen to that. And that is such a great way to close out
Nice.
this episode. And I will say this about wisdom: we learn knowledge, and when we share that knowledge, that's when it becomes wisdom.
Mic drop.
There you go. So John, thank you so much for being here. It was, as always, such a joy. Our conversations just fill me up.
You are welcome, and thank you.
And thank you for listening to the Power of Investing in People podcast. This season 8 of the Shay Sparks Relationships, Leadership, and Love. If this episode resonated with you, I invite you to join my Spark Your Alpha community for bonus episodes full of tools to set your alpha skills on fire at shaysparkspodcast.com, because together we can light up the world. So let's get fired up.